Ba-ba-bam-ba-dum-ba-dum, bow! Ladies and gents, welcome. Welcome back. It's Friday night. It's 7:30, which means, of course, pull up a pew, pull up a bar stool, crack yourself open a beer, a bottle of wine, roll that bifter. You know the deal. It is time, of course, for another live edition of A. Thompson and Other Disappointments. Whoa! Ladies and gents and everything in between. I'm your host, A. Thompson. Welcome to the people in the live chat. I see you. What's going on? People in the live. If you haven't popped in there yet on a Friday night, of course, you are very welcome to. If you're listening to this on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, if you are later catching up on YouTube, or perhaps you're subscribed to one of the, the new Clips channel thing that I've rolled out. If you just watch the podcast via the Clips on the Clips channel, then what's up? Hello, how you doing? But also join in on Friday. Friday night is where it's at, guys. Friday night is the live show with the live chat. It's a little bit more interactive, isn't it, guys? What's up to Christine Cash? What's up to Alex French, Billy Kershaw, Diz? Diz is my new moderator now on a Friday night. Because we had somebody was getting a little bit too playful last week, and far be it from me to ever box myself into some sort of censorship, anti-freedom of speech, freedom of expression type character. But there are limits to my patience. You may have noticed that with how frequently I subscribe to the medium of ranting. So yeah, Diz is our moderator tonight. Who else have we got? Richard Marsden's here. What's up, Rich? Mojo Sabian. What's up, Mojo? LU2D Games is making an appearance as well. Got lots of names in here this evening. Welcome. Happy Friday to you guys. Have you enjoyed your half term and Halloween and all of that stuff as much as I have? Oh, Lord, it's been fun. It's fun. I think fun is an accurate description for my incredibly hectic week. I hope yours has been okay too, listeners, dear viewers. So yeah, anyway, look, if it's your first time tuning in, do say hello, do send me a wave, drop me an aubergine or a badger emoji in the live chat, as is sometimes custom. We'll come back to the live chat in a little bit, of course. Throw a few questions out there, get your thoughts and feelings on all that stuff. That's what we do on a Friday night. I field you some questions, I table you some thoughts, some feelings, some insecurities, some open questions, and you guys get involved. But first, guys, cheers. First, let's take a look at what's happened this week, shall we? Should we go through this week's news? We did this a few times on a few live shows where you sort of, you go through day by day what's happened this week. So that we might, once again attempt to make sense of the senseless. So when did the week start? The week started on Monday, right? That's pretty standard. The week started on Monday with Labour suspending one of their backbenchers. Don't know if you saw that. It's a guy called Mike Amesbury. They suspended him for allegedly punching a member of the public on a night out. Now, the investigation is ongoing, dear viewers, dear listeners. So there is, of course, a limit to the extent to which we can divulge certain bits of information here. But we can say that on the video, he caveats the alleged assault. Like it's, fairly well documented. It's ridiculous, really, that you still have to say, like, alleged. Like, it's there. We can see what happened. But he caveats the assault by shouting at the man in question, the victim, the survivor. He, allegedly assaults him, and he says, like, yeah, you won't threaten your MP again, will you? Just Like, I want to know what the threat was. That's what I want to know. I want to know what the specific threat was that he visited upon that man. Because I want to know where I stand on this sort of stuff. You know, this threatening MP's business. You know, like how in scope of a recrimination, revenge, violent assault am I? Is what I would like to establish, you know? Some of the shit that I come out with. Like, is it okay for Carrie to come up and lamp me in the face for the time that I told Boris Johnson that I'm going to reroute Thames water sewage so it all goes into his new mansion's moat? Like, would that be okay now if she lamped me for that? Or is it possible, you know, that now it's okay for me to be milkshaked because of the time that I said that I wished that when Nigel Farage had been milkshaked, it had been a cup of piss? Like, is it okay? Like, where is it okay to assault people for what they may or may not have said previously? Is what I'd like to ascertain at this stage, guys. Like, do I need to hire security? I just need to know what to factor into the Patreon budget. Like, I know Western democracies are, you know, they're becoming more radicalized, aren't they? More extreme and less stable. But, you know, are we kind of accepting at this stage that we're going to go full-blown Old Testament with our politics now? You know, is it eye for an eye now? Like, if you threaten someone that something might happen to them, then it's okay for you to turn around and then lamp them. Is that where we're kind of at? With politics? With accountability? With exposing them to scrutiny? Like last year and the year before, they wanted to avoid scrutiny, the government of the day, didn't they? The year before that, they banned Channel 4 News from their campaign buses. Don't know if you remember that. Cast your mind back. By 2025, if you broach even their personal voting record, who they've taken donations from, you will get hanged in the fucking town square. I really think that is where we're headed. You know, you won't dare threaten your local MP again, will you? Strap them up in the gallows. Like, I think we need to know exactly what this threat actually consisted of. You know, because if it's death threats, or like, what was the other guy, that Tory MP from London, I think he got like Molotov cocktails left outside his constituency office or something. If it's like death threats, Molotov cocktails, and Joe Cox kind of shit, like, okay, all right, fine. You know? Discipline that motherfucker. But if it's, you know, me joking about holding down Robert Jenrick and then, you know, aggressively shitting in his mouth, I think that kind of comes with the territory. I think that's okay. So that was Monday. That's how the week started, guys. Tuesday. Let's talk about Tuesday. Tuesday, the American stand-up comedian Tony Hinchcliffe got kicked to the curb by Donald Trump after his suggestion that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage. That's what he suggested. Tony Hinchcliffe, famed roast comic from stateside, suggested that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage. Like, imagine that shit, man. Imagine putting your stand-up career on the line to chase the approval of that sack of shit. Like, and then you get there, you know, and you get to the venue and you know the deal. It's a rally and you've been booked to be a bit funny, a bit roasty, a bit contentious, you know, and you're out the back ready to go on in your nice suit and you're clearing your throat, looking at yourself in the mirror like, okay, all right, you got this. You know it's going to be like the biggest night of your career because he's not a household name. He's not Joe Rogan or Chris Rock or whatever. He's been booked because he's a roast comic, because he's kind of funny, because you get the idea. But you know that this is going to be the biggest night of your career. And you get there, you're out the back, and you think to yourself, you look at yourself in the mirror, and you're just like, okay, all right, this is a MAGA crowd. So I've got to say, I'll say something horrendous, obviously, because it's MAGA, right? So say something, like read the room, Tony. That's what they told you at your $9 an hour improv class. That's what they told you, right? Read the room. Go with your gut, Tony. And so then you do go out and you say something horrendous, but not only do not even that crowd laugh at it, like the joke bombed hard. It was not a good reception. But also now your career is over. Like, it's just done. It's just toast at this stage. And on top of that, the guy whose approval you sought by saying the classless, prejudiced, ignorant, dumb thing, well, he throws you straight under the bus as well. To top it off, it's a bad joke, everyone hated it, and even the person who you were trying to curry favor of, even he just threw you straight under the bus, lad. Like, in a matter of hours, Donald Trump was like, sorry, who? No, I've never heard of him. Like, career is just done. And he'll always be remembered for this. Like, that's the kind of funny thing about it, like, this is the thing now for him that they'll put below his name at the out-of-state comedy clubs that you sort of drive, like, appearing tonight, it's Drew Carey from the Drew Carey Show. Then underneath, like, Tony Hinchcliffe, oh, you remember him for the MAGA thing, right? That's his credit. So it's going to be weird for a roast comic, to try to come back from this, to try to recover his career from this. Right? Because he's made his name out of roasting people, right? He's made his name out of being mean about people. But it doesn't matter who the target is now. It doesn't matter how long it is from now. The next comedy roast that he does of someone, of anyone, is going to be like, oh, it's a Comedy Central roast of Kendall Jenner, or, whatever. And he's going to whip out his shitty roast jokes, his mean character assassination jokes. He's going to be like, yeah, do you remember when you took that Pepsi commercial and you made yourself look really stupid for, like $1 million? And whoever it is, like if it's Kendall Jenner, like she's going to turn around and be like, yeah, remember when your whole career died for nothing? Like, how do you come back from that? Remember when you ended your own career for literally no benefit? You got paid nothing, Tony, and you wistfully tossed your career onto the bonfire. Do you remember that? How's your recollection, Anthony? Like, how do you recover from that if you are a roast comic? Like roasts are an American phenomenon, really, aren't they? I appreciate I'm sort of, veering into my my stand-up comedy world here a little bit too much, but for the benefit of those of you who are not as exposed to that world as perhaps some of the rest of you are, but like roasts are an American medium, right? We don't really do them here as much as they do them over there. I think they've tried them here a couple of times, but for various social reasons they don't work in quite the same way. It's a bit like panel shows. Panel shows here, it's a British thing. They work here. They don't really do them over there, I don't think. There's something about that doesn't really work either. But if you want a British example of, what Tony Hinchcliffe is and now the problems that he will face, I guess it's a little bit like Angus Deaton, and his exit from Have I Got News for You? You cast your mind back a bit. It's like, how are you going to sit there and mock politicians for their sleaze and their scandals after you, personally, have been the headline on the news of the world for having your very own John Belushi session. Like, how is that going to ever work? They'll just turn around to you and go, aha, okay, you're criticizing me for that, are you? Okay. So it's a bit like that. It's like, how are you going to roast somebody once you've gone down in flames at Madison Square Garden in the most consequential presidential campaign of modern history and died on your ass and for no benefit? You're going to end up with your name as a byword for bombing. Like, that's where Hinchcliffe is right now, guys. You're going to get comedians, like stand-up comedians, going back into the green room after a tough gig, They're going to walk back in the green room with their other mates, the other guys who are on the bill. They're going to be like, oh, Jesus, that was rough. Oh, really? Tough crowd? Yeah, I ate shit out there. I totally Hinchcliffed it. That's where his name is headed. It used to be Chris Rocked, didn't it? Like, that would be a bad gig, Got hecklers that are a little bit too lively, too violent, a little bit Amesbury. Comedians getting smacked in the face. All their friends would talk about it on the WhatsApp group over the weekend. Like, oh, did you hear about James? Did you hear about James' show the other night? He got full-on Chris Rock by some guy. Now Chris Rock is out there somewhere going like, phew, somebody else is a euphemism for a terrible gig. Somebody's taken that baton from me. It's just Hinchcliffe, Fergie from the Black Eyed Peas, and Tommy Cooper even. Tommy Cooper had a fairly bad show. I don't know. You might have heard about it. So that was Monday and Tuesday. God, we're getting a little bit slow tonight, aren't we? Getting through these days. Wednesday. What happened Wednesday, guys? Wednesday we found out that the Southport attacker was also a Ricin Brewing Al-Qaeda content subscriber, which was... I don't know, man. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Like, I know Robert Jenrick is kind of surfing on this whole thing, isn't he? He's like using it as fodder, using it to weave distrust in institutions more so than he already has. He's coming out with that sort of GB News culture war Trumpian nonsense where it's like, hang on a second, guys, hang on. You say he's cooking up ricin. Say he's got an Al-Qaeda manual in his bedroom. This whole time we were saying like, oh, this sounds a bit terroristic. It sounds like the behavior of an Islamist terrorist. But you told us that was all disinformation. Now it's coming out maybe he was a Muslim terrorist. So what's with the information vacuum? What else are they not telling us? Asks Robert Jenrick. And honestly, like, I'm so bored of it. I really am. I don't know about how you guys, people in the live chat, feel about this breed of culture war conservatives, the constant sensationalism, grandstanding, lies. Like this week, I hope. Here's what I hope happens this coming week. I hope Kemi Badenoch wins the Tory leadership. Because at least she's not, like, she's a bit crazy, and yes, she's a bit culture war-y, but at least she's saying, like, she wouldn't, instinctively leave the ECHR, right? That's not in her thing. She's like, well, I don't know. I'll look into it. I'll decide. She doesn't seem to be quite as weird and culture war-y as Robert Jenrick. So I hope Kemi Badenoch wins that. And then I hope Jenrick just gets kicked to the curb for trying to emulate Trump in the UK. I hope that happens. And then this week, Tuesday night, in case you weren't aware, I hope Trump gets beaten decisively. I hope and pray that happens. And then I hope that Musk goes to jail. And we have this Labour government here in the UK. And I really hope at that point that we can just start to turn the page on this horrible, awful period that we've all happened and lived and had to endure. You know? Like, imagine how good that would feel to know that there's no culture war crook, rapist in the White House. There's no Tories selling policy, you know, in their weird breakfast club donor meetings. Imagine how good it would feel if the culture war itself had just failed, you know? And every single insufferable Reform MP or MAGA weirdo or half-radicalized chancer can just settle down. You know, they just get beaten at the ballot box or arrested and charged. And then at that point, they could just, you know, just go, oh, and they just take a breath, you know, and they just wipe their brow, take off the MAGA hat, take off the blue tie, whatever. They just exit stage right. They walk out the back and they go, oh, fuck, I really Hinchcliffed it out there. You know, like, I would love that shit. And we're so close to it, aren't we? What else has happened this week? I suppose the big, you know, party political story this week has been is the budget, right? We had the budget. A lot of tax adjustments for the rich. That was quite fun. You got some farmers sobbing on the radio because their £3 million estates might get taxed when they snuff it, like after they die. And frankly, those farmers would rather that those taxes were paid for by their fruit pickers. That's basically what this is. Just take that in for a second. Drink in the classist nepo baby pleb hate that is on full display here. They would rather that poor, struggling, low-income povers with their soot-gargling laden lungs and blistered digits from a hard day's work, they would rather that the poor suffer those taxes and austerity cuts while they're alive than the farmers themselves pay for them even when they're dead. When they're fucking dead, they would rather still hold on to that money. Like, how bad is that? That's when you know that the hate is real. When it follows you into the afterlife, you know? What do you mean? Pay it out of the money after I've passed away? Absolutely not! You know, some priest on his deathbed with him, begging him to give some away. Like, you can't take it with you, Baron Farquhar. You may as well, you know, just consider it. Just consider sidelining a little bit of money for the poor and the needy and the hungry. Meanwhile, the farmer's just like, yeah, absolutely not. You can't take it with you, though, Baron Farquhar. Well, we'll see about that. Bury me with my riches. So, yeah. Farmers getting mad about this. Nobody wants to see that, do they? Angry farmers. I haven't seen farmers this mad since they all voted for Brexit and then protested when they got hit with tariffs and couldn't find summer staff and had sewage dumped into their rivers and streams. They were mad about that too, as I recall. I mean, this is the giveaway, really, isn't it? This is the giveaway. This is the watermark for you living in a fucked up country, right? Is that I can threaten, right? I can threaten jokingly that I might pour sewage into Boris Johnson's moat. And I could probably end up arrested for that, if not assaulted, apparently. Eye for an eye and all of that. But Johnson, Truss, Sunak, all of them can route sewage into your local river and kill your fish, if that's, the sort of farmer that you are or whatever. They could do that, and there's probably no legal case for it. There's nothing you could do. You have no recourse. Doesn't it just make you feel proud and patriotic? I am just brimming with hate. Oh. What were some other reactions to the budget this week? Anybody see some funny ones as you've cast a glance across all of the majority right-wing press? Anyone seen any choruses, nay orchestras of tiny violins coming out to play as the tables have turned? Well, what do you mean I have to pay a value-added tax on my private school privileged luxury elite product? The VAT should go on bonus luxury products that poor people are upsold into buying, not actually elite products that rich people routinely buy. Do you not understand the difference, Rachel? Do you not understand how that works? That's why there's no VAT on buying racehorses or jet fuel or school fees, but there is VAT on Pinot Grigio, Stella Artois, and trips to the Algarve. This is how it works, Rachel. I don't think you've thought about this at all. So yeah, people in the live chat. Any orchestras of tiny violins that you've come across? Because I saw a couple this week. I'll share them with you now. Maybe you guys saw them too. The first one was Laura Koonsberg. I think this was last Sunday. And she said, well, what about, they're sort of going over the anticipated stuff that was going to be in the budget. And she was like, what about a couple? What about a young couple who have scrimped and saved and bought a couple of investment properties? I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, nobody has scrimped and saved and bought a couple of investment properties, Laura. Nobody. That hasn't happened one time in the United Kingdom for the last, 15 years. Where have you been? The only people buying investment properties now in Britain, and two of them are the already rich. That's who's buying investment properties now. Those guys and BlackRock. They're the only people who are buying investment properties. There's no scrimping and saving going on. What planet are you living on? Oh, what about a little couple, a young couple of plebs who have just scrimped and saved? She works in Burger King and he works in retail somewhere. What about, they've just saved and they've scrimped and they've saved and they bought themselves a couple of investment properties. What about them? Would they be hit with this new tax? Oh, Jesus fucking Christ, Koonsberg. But then that graduated to this morning's even better one, even better tiny violin solo in the Telegraph. I don't know if you saw this one. This was like it was like 2 buy-to-let landlords with 60 properties, right? It's a couple. They have 60 buy-to-let landlord properties. 60 investment properties. I'm sure they scripted and saved. I'm positive that is what happened. Or are they inspiring? And they're given, this interview with the Telegraph where it's just incredible. It really is. They're like, we just feel like we've been hung out to dry by this Labour government, this Labour budget. We just feel, don't we, darling? We just feel like we've been hung out to dry by them. Totally ignored. Cut adrift, cast aside and forgotten. We're struggling, aren't we, love? Yes, we are, with our 60 investment properties. Christ. We just feel like we've been hung out to dry. We're going to have to sell our boats, they cried. Like, I get that it's hard. I understand that it's hard. I get that it's shit. It's an adjustment for you, isn't it? I get that you're annoyed that buy-to-let isn't very profitable anymore. I understand. We all understand that. Plus the capital gains, all of that's going to go up too, and they've changed the, the brackets for it, so maybe you're more in scope of the higher bracket or whatever. I understand that it must be frustrating. It's a change. But honestly, like, you know what you should do? You know what you should do if you're struggling, as these two obviously are in the Telegraph piece with their 60 properties. 60! Like, just quickly, actually, I mean, this will be fun, excuse me. Let's just focus on that for a minute, on the 60. Just for a laugh, guys. The guy's in Colchester, isn't he? I read this earlier. He's in Colchester. So let's say they're all one-bed flats, right? There could be a couple of two beds, but let's just keep this as meager as possible. Let's assume that they are all one beds. So 61-bed flats, all rented for, I did a little bit of research on this earlier. They seem to fluctuate between like $800 a month and $1,200 a month. So let's say that they're all £900 a month. That's a medium sort of rate, okay? So 61-bed flats, all rented for $900 a month. They complain in this piece that they had to cut their management company out to keep the profits running. So now they're having to do like all the maintenance themselves, which is actually quite hard work. I'm led to believe. Like, my missus does, property here and there, and she's only got two. She's got two like investment flats that she scrimped and saved. She didn't fucking scrimp and save. It's family money. But she does. She manages two of them herself, and she seems to spend her life like running between them, with pipes burst and then gas safety checks and all of that. So I'm sure that it is a hassle, is what I'm saying. But still, £900 a month times 60 is £54,000 a month. 54 grand a month coming in. And let's be realistic again. Like, I don't want to, I don't lead you up the garden path with all of this stuff. Let's be somewhat realistic. Let's be generous to this scenario that we're working out. Let's say that they're all mortgaged off each other. Like, they don't actually own 60 fucking properties. The bank does. That's how these things work. But they probably own a few outright. Like, the way that these models, the way that they model it is, they'll buy 7 properties, and then one has accumulated value over the space of like 5 or 6 years. They will liquidate that and use the capital that they've gained, because it's grown in value, as a deposit for the 8th. And then, do you see? And it keeps going in a cycle like that. So there's lots of mortgages involved in all of these. They probably own a few outright, but still lots of mortgages. But still, let's take half that. Let's take 3/4 of that off, assuming that they don't own 75% of that 54 grand a month that they've got coming in. It still works out at 10 grand a month. 10 grand. You're telling me you couldn't find, someone to manage those properties, and then you just go live abroad when you're on £10,000 a month? Really? In retirement? Fucking delusion of these people. Oh, we just feel like we've been hung out to dry, Ade. We just feel like we've been hung out to dry. Really? Hung out to dry in the sunshine? Is what you've been hung out to dry with your 10 grand a month, while everyone else is forced to work up with a high tax burden in Tesco and drive buses and cleans and picks fruit. Well, yeah, I mean, we just feel like we've personally been thrown to the wolves. Oh, really? With your 10 grand a month? Are you sure you're going to survive? Are you sure you're okay, Grandad? Are you sure you're all right, Grandad? I ask emotionally, as I come off my second double shift and tag team with my wife just to make it through another month without descending into the red. Well, I'm seriously considering selling my son so I can still afford my daughter. Are you all right, Grandad? You know, it's that rarely ventured or visited moment where you don't know if your granddad is going to kind of freeze to death or starve to death because he can't last on his 10 grand a month, or if this whole situation and argument and blog on the Telegraph is actually just a symptom of dementia. Should I be worried about the dementia, Dad? I don't know. Like, I'll tell you what it's like, right? It's like the meme of Jesus, isn't it? It's like the meme of Jesus listening. Oh, I've got it up now. It's like the meme of Jesus listening to Mel Gibson complaining. That is what this is. Like, this is Generation X, right? Is Jesus there? Jesus is Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z. This is us lot listening to you millionaire farmers complaining about your fucking cash flow. You bellends. Well, I don't know how we're going to survive. I just feel like we've been thrown to the wolves. I just feel like we're, nobody's thinking about us though, are they? I just feel like I've been hung out to dry. Oh, you poor love. You poor thing. Oh dear, what are you gonna do? But yeah. If you are struggling, right, as indeed these people clearly are, I just want you to know that I am here for you. You know, we're all here for you. Even though it may not sound like it sometimes, you know, and how do you know that? How do you know that we're here for you? Because, you know, here I am on camera telling you that I feel for you. You know, I feel for all of you, all of those out there who are just about managing, you know, to get around all those properties and change a light bulb and sell your boat is what they're saying that they're going to do. I feel for you. Of course I do. I'd be inhuman if I didn't. You know, of course I feel for you. And you know that because I'm speaking earnestly and empathetically for those of you who just want to get on. You know? Oh, I understand what you're going through. Yeah, sincerely I do. Because, you know, how do I know what you're going? Well, because once I had Sky TV when I was a kid or something. But, you know, the farmers, you know, the private school patrons, the capital gains survivors out there. Just know this, you know, my message to you. I know that things are tough. I know that you're just about managing out there. But please, just hang on in there, guys. Because, listen, come close. Labour benefits are just around the corner. They are. Honestly, just hang in there, guys. Labour benefits are coming soon. So they let the British lion roar, guys, right? And all of that. So yes, obviously, you know, don't worry about your worries and so, you know, thoughts and prayers and all of that. What are we gonna do? What else can we do for them, guys, in the live chat? What else? Maybe you could all come. Do you want to come with me now? You know what we could do is we could do an outside broadcast right now. I could take you out the front of my house, and I'll tell you what we'll do. Right, we'll set up it's an outside broadcast for the farmers, for the private school parents. For the capital gains survivors who struggle, I know and I understand. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out onto my front porch and we are going to clap for our cretins. That's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to offer you some claps and some thoughts and prayers, and the benefits are just coming around the corner because you guys are just about managing. We are offering you all some claps to just hang in there. Yeah. Who's up for joining my Clap for Our Cretins campaign? That's all they need, guys. I checked it with the banks, checked it with their mortgage providers, their energy bills, all of that. Apparently all they need is claps. I know. I was shocked too. I was pretty surprised. Pretty relieved, actually, because it means I don't have to do fuck all. But yeah, just hold your nerve, guys. You just about managing heroes. Labour benefits are coming. Just hold your nerve. And I know. I'm delighted to tell you that we're on your side and we hear your concerns. But watch now as we immediately roll out our actual policy that does precisely the opposite to all of the stuff you wanted us to do. Just like the Tories did. Yes. Right, we'll just stand here and we'll say that we're against direct action and just stop oil style protesting and unlawful protest and all of that. And then we'll roll out some environmental protections. Just like Rishi Sunak did when he said he had 2 committed environmentalist daughters at home and he was committed to net zero, only to push back net zero commitments and sign off those 300 drilling licenses. Boom! Like, it's not nice, is it? It's not nice. It's probably really annoying when one paints a picture of oneself as one thing, only to then legislate with one's true colours over here. It's probably really annoying to be on the receiving end of that. Actually quite bruising, I would imagine. You know, it's like, what is it like? It's like leading someone in to what they think is a health spa, right? They think it's a health spa or a sauna, you know? You bring them in like with a comforting stroke and a tickle of the bollies. Just a little tickle of the bollies. And you think that you're on your way into the sauna, you know? And you go in, you lead in, you know, you're inside this sauna. And then actually you realise that you are in a cooker. They are cooking you. That's what it's like. That's what it feels like. It's not fucking nice, is it? Christ, with your 60 fucking flats. 60 investment properties worth about £200,000 each. I looked up earlier. So £200,000 times 60 is 12 million. It's a 12 million pound property portfolio. 12 million. And they're in the paper with sad faces like a couple with a missing teenager. Like, look at them. Look at their faces. Like, even if you took off the mortgages, if you slashed that by half, it's still £6 million. Even if you took a chunk off for capital gains, it's like 3 million quid. 3 million. And add on their boat. Like, how can you not sail around the world with your own boat and £3 million? Like, somebody needs to tell these rich cunts how to budget better. I mean, they just do. Like, how can you not do that? How is that not achievable with a boat and 3 million? What are we missing here? I mean, in fact, like, where's Robert Jenrick when you need it? Like, what else are they not telling us? What are they not telling us? I have questions. Old inquisitive Bobby. Inquisitive Bobby Jenrick. He's the paradoxically bad side to intellectual curiosity, isn't he? Intellectual curiosity with a twist. A man for whom intelligence is in such short supply that everything is a mystery waiting to be solved. And that is basically Jenrick's MO, I think. What else are they not telling us? He cries, exploiting the Southport police for political gain. What else are they not telling us in this information vacuum? I'm like, oh, now he wants to get investigative. Does he? Right, okay. Now he's got questions, I see. Good stuff. Because it's funny, man. It's funny. Like, if we're talking about Robert Jenrick for a minute, like, it's, when you ask him why a brand new company with no employees, no profit, and just a sack of loans from anonymous offshore accounts, why they might want to donate to his political campaign, he's not that inquisitive. He doesn't have questions then. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? The curiosity is on furlough in that scenario. But when it comes to the wheels of justice, moving slowly inching forward, carefully, with discretion and process and protocols and the CPS and professional detectives operating precisely and as discreetly as you would expect. Oh, well, now he's got questions. All right. Okay. Now you're intellectually curious, are you? Good stuff. Well, I have a question too, Bobby. Will you fuck off? Like, I would seriously, just to get serious with you for but a moment, I really reckon if I punched Robert Jenrick in the face, I think I would experience a sexual orgasm. I really think that would be... I think that's what would happen if that just connected. Just, you know, I think my testicles would lift and tighten. I think it would sexually confuse me. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But at the same time, it would just happen and it would be natural. You know? Like, you know when somebody just has that face? It's just the right kind of ratio of squishiness, of like, you know, plump, kind of well-fed, living well, comfortable, like the right level of squishiness and private school tone and diction. You know, it's the right ratio of those two things. It's, you know, like if you could go to private school, that's fine, you know, you might be okay. You could go to a state school comprehensive and maybe be a bit chubby. That's fine too. But if you go to a private school and you mature into having that middle-aged white man turkey wobble neck, like your jowls look like they've just been inflated with a bike pump by a factor of about 3. Just like a little bit of a turkey wobble neck going on there. There's something about those two factors working perfectly with one another. You know, like a man who went to a private school and has the right amount of squishiness in his face. Like maybe that's just my type. Maybe that's what it is. Like, do I have a type or something now? Is that what this is? Like, I'm not saying I find that attractive. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that, you know, if you lamped him in the face, or, you know, Piers Morgan or Jeremy Clarkson, you know, it's the squishiness and private education. Like the fist in the like the metaphysical effect of that would be ejaculation. It's just like, I don't understand it either. I don't understand why that would happen, but it definitely would happen. And it would be the one and only time that I could say that a man had made me come. That's... And it may even be the one and only time that Robert Jenrick could ever say he had made anybody ever come. Maybe that's too far. Maybe this has got a bit weird. I'm really Hinchcliffing tonight. Let's move on. So here is a thing. Here is a story that exploded onto Threads earlier. I'm just going to talk you through this story, and then we'll wrap up. And we'll do some Q&A, shall we? That's the vibe we're going for these days. A little bit of podcast, a little bit of ranting. And then we wrap up at about, just after 8:30, I guess, isn't it? Normally, 8:45. Stay on for some Q&A, and then I'll jump in my Discord with my backers, my channel backers, my Patreons, my cult. But yeah, so okay, there's a story that came out today. It's about a kind of Christian influencer, right? And her name is Whitney Lynn. Her website calls her. Let me see if I've got it up here. We go. Her website you can't really see it properly there. Her website calls her an internationally recognized evangelist, singer, songwriter, producer, and deliverance minister who has gone viral with her street preaching, reaching millions. So, I mean, she's obviously a very impressive individual, I guess. I mean, I'm impressed. I hope you guys are too. And you kind of get the idea already, right? She's one of these religious online content providers. We don't really know how far away she is from, ordering hate pamphlets and brewing ricin, but I'm sure that she's lovely. I'm sure that the online religious market has only been ruined by a few bad apples out there. I'm sure she is lovely. Whitney Lynn. And historically, I suppose, she would be a sort of village preacher character, wouldn't she? That's traditionally what these types of people do, isn't it? This kind of person, this preachery type person, they would be confined to one village in centuries gone by, and they would, they'd try to make money out of this thing. They would try to scare you and your family into attending her services or shows, really, is what they are, isn't it? In the parish hall, in the village hall. And then at the end, just like every amateur performance and terrible open mic night, she would send round a tip cup or a collection basket, at the end. She'd probably say something along the lines of, did you enjoy the show? When I told your kids that they were going to burn in hell, did you enjoy that? Did you like that? That content, that show? You're going to come again next week? Okay. All right. Well, I'll see you next Sunday. All right. Now throw a 20 in the basket, you cheap bastard. That kind of vibe. So that's what she would do traditionally. Parish hall, scare everyone, demand some money, repeat. But this being now, today being today, people like this lady now bring the good news to you directly. To your phone. A Christian influencer. And obviously that, means content. Content is required. She's got to produce content. It has to gain traction and comments and all the rest of it. And so she pops up on Threads this morning with this video, which I'm going to play you now. And she's in her seat on the flight, and they're in the fucking air, right? It's taken off already. Just have a fucking look at this. Like, I already love it, by the way. I love the fact that she looks around, like how peaceful it is, how quiet. Everyone's minding their own business. Nobody's bothering anyone. It's a silent, comfortable flight. I love that is emphasized. Okay, so. Just chill.
Hello, Ohio. I just want to make a quick announcement. I was shocked to find out that Ohio is the birthplace of rock and roll. But what I want to ask you today is the rhythm of your heart beating to the music of heaven or the drum beat to hell, because Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins and rose again in 3 days. He's alive and the one true God. But the wages of our sin is death, hell, forever. He paid it all for you today. He loves you. Come to know the living God today and rock for Jesus. Know him personally, and he will never disappoint you. Put your faith in Jesus and turn from your sins. He's coming back. God bless you, Ohio. Jesus loves you, and Jesus saves. God bless you. God bless you.
Absolute silence.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Absolute silence. I'm like, oh my God. I was like, this can't be real. This cannot be real. This is a skit, isn't it? This is some sort of joke about people like that, but exaggerated for comedy. Hello, Ohio. I was shocked to learn that Ohio is the birthplace of rock and roll. Right, okay. But what I want to ask you today is the rhythm of your heart beating to the music of heaven or the drum beat of hell? Because Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sin. Oh, God. Really? Really? Like, what is it with these people? What? Like, what is, like, I know churches are really empty these days. You know, but are the gigs that bad? Are the gigs that empty that you have to go for a captive audience on a fucking 757? Like, really? Really? Like, you couldn't keep it in a church. You know, admittedly an empty, vacant church. But you couldn't flyer for a bit. You couldn't put up some posters in a cafe for your show, Whitney. Get a few new folks from the old folks' home, you know? New faces. A few terrified veterans, a couple of months away from snuffing it. So they're finally feeling guilty about the shit that they did to people in Vietnam, you know? So they feel obliged to start making it right, going to church. Go to church twice a week. Rewrite your will. Sell the farm and give some money to some hard-up landlords with 60 properties. Pay it forward, guys. You know, you couldn't get those numbers up, Whitney. You got to wait till we're all knackered in economy and start shouting your gaudy nonsense up there, really. And what I love about this video is how everyone is just unanimously, without exception, unanimously, silently in agreement. Like, it's so rare to find a group of people that big. What is it, like 150 passengers? A group of people who agree on this one thing. There's so much division. There's probably Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, all over the place in there. They've got all manner of things that they disagree about. There's MAGA, there's Democrats, there's black, there's white, there's men, there's women. But unanimously, that entire cabin, all of them are thinking, Jesus fucking Christ, no. Now, this is the opposite of a violent disagreement, you know, maybe between a MP and his local constituent getting violently assaulted. This is the opposite of a violent disagreement. This is what you would call a silent agreement. This is what that sounds like. 150 passengers all sighing and ignoring in glorious harmony. Like, nobody even responds to her, do they? Like, they're literally just ignoring her. That's all they're doing. Everyone's like, oh, God, I wish I'd gone to see Hinchcliffe. That would be better than this. This is fucking awful. This is like a mandatory Jesus gig now. Like, I can't even get up and leave. I can't get up and leave from whatever the fuck this is. I can't even undo my seatbelt at the moment. Look at the light. The seatbelt light is off. I can't even undo my seatbelt and go for a walk. I just have to sit here and listen to this nutty bitch creaming her pants about Jesus. Like, I didn't even pay to hear this bitch speak, and I already want a refund. This is terrible. This is the worst in-flight entertainment ever. And I've flown Garuda. I don't know, man. I mean, the obvious thing that everyone's pointing out with this video is that if this were a Muslim guy interrupting and being loud like that, you know, but shouting about Allah, you know, like he wouldn't even get to the end of, like, Ohio was the birthplace of rock and roll. Like, he would get tasered and tossed out over Cleveland. He just would. He'd be like, there's a guy with a beard over there talking quite loud. Done. Over. You should have a sea of drunk, angry patriots at 5,000 feet. Ohio's the birthplace of rock and roll, and Allah is wonderful. I love Allah. Just gradually getting more and more wound up by him. They just unbolt the door, depressurize the cabin, throw out his tasered body out the door. Say hello to Osama for me. That's how that would end. If this was a Muslim man saying that stuff. Like a Muslim man, here's how fucked up America is, right? And just race relations in general. If a Muslim man so much as raised his hand to complain about this bitch, if he just called the in-flight attendant to complain, he'd put up his hand and be like, yeah, excuse me, this lady is causing a disturbance, and I would really like to get some sleep. Like, the flight attendant would just be like, sir, can you put your arms down? Because you look like you're kind of showing off a vest or something. He'd be like, no, I mean, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just saying, like, if for the price of these seats, like, me and my wife are set here, and for the price of these, for the money that me and my wife are paying for this, and now this disturbance, you know, I'm just saying, like, why do we pay here? My love, what do we pay? What do we pay per couple? And then like some MAGA guy with a red cap on like overhears it. He's just like, did he just say pay per cutter? Just starts getting fucking raucous. It would kick off. The MAGA guy, somebody's MAGA husband would be like, restrain that guy. Restrain the brown guy with the beard. Hold him down. I knew he was trouble the second I laid eyes on him. That's how that would go. If that was a Muslim dude shouting about God in the middle of a flight. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm so happy I wasn't on that flight. I really, truly am. I mean, imagine if you were. Like, imagine if you were on that fucking flight with this bitch. You know, you're knackered. You got kids. You sat with your wife who's just seething at you. Just inexplicably. You've done nothing. Nothing but she's just angry. Arrgh. So then you're fucking stewing. You're like stressed out. Because you've just got your 1-year-old to nod off. You know, in your lap. Just over here or whatever. I don't know if you've ever flown with a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, but it's not fun. Imagine you're just there, your angry wife, and you've just got the 1-year-old just to know she's just nodding off like that. You've just managed to stop her from having her own in-flight riot where she's just kicking stuff and throwing shit and screaming and shouting. Like, you've been up since 5 a.m. to catch that fucking flight. Your wife is livid. Because all of the above is true. Like the screaming, the shouting, the throwing and stuff. But also, additionally, it's all your fault somehow. So she's dealing with all of that stress and anxiety, but also it's your fault somehow. So she's angry about that also. So it's kind of, she's got double the stress and anxiety and anger and hate. And finally, the 1-year-old is drifting off to sleep. And you're like, oh, thank fuck. And then you look up and then the toilet light goes green. And you're like, oh. And then this woman emerges from it, you know? This fucking weird, radicalized, devoid of self-worth fucking narcissist emerges from the toilet where she's practiced her sermon in there for the last, 10 minutes, blocking the toilet so nobody else can take a shit. She's done all of her vocal warm-ups and empowerment mantras in there. Then she sits in her seat and she launches into that monologue. Ohio, Jesus died for your sin. It would wake up the one. What would I be capable of in that moment? I honestly don't know. If she reawakened my 1-year-old, I don't know what I would be capable of in that scenario. Would I violently beat her? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. You know? I end up with people fucking, all over my comment section, writing blogs and shit did you hear about Abe Thompson? Did you hear he got into a violent altercation with a female passenger on a flight? Did you hear about that? I didn't have him down as a misogynist. You know, like they'd pull me off her on the flight, screaming at her. I'd be like, look, my kid needs to sleep or we're all going to have to fucking deal with her for the next 7 hours. Like, what the fuck are you playing at? Shut up. They'd pull me off her. Onlookers would be like, why do you hate women? Then that's when my missus would step in. She'd be like, ready to pummel her too. Because she's twice as angry. She'd be like, he doesn't hate women. We hate this woman. That's how that would go. And so does fucking Jesus. Because she's a fucking trooper, is the missus. Honestly, I've got no fucking time for that sort of stuff. You know, showboating your good news. Making a captive audience, a captive, knackered, in-flight audience who are stressed out and cramped in economy. Make them listen to your fucking book. Like, what is the goal here, man? Like, what is the goal with this woman doing this on the flight? You know, what is like? Are you thinking you're going to convert people with this sort of like? What is the conversion rate for tired passengers who don't want to listen to this into becoming book clutching ideologues? What is the conversion rate, Whitney? Like, I bet that it's high, but kind of weirdly, ironically, you know? Like, if me and my mates were on this flight, right? If we were catching a flight somewhere and somebody did this to us on that flight, I reckon it would convert us, but to Islamist fundamentalism. I think that's where that would head. You know, convert me from a fucking passive, cuddly teddy bear that I am into an amateur flight controlist. That's where I would be converted. I don't know. I mean, the thing, I'll tell you just lastly, and then we'll move on to some Q&A because I've been rabbiting for a long time now. But the thing that weirds me out about this sort of thing, right? We'll just quickly go back to the... It's like, if you focus on what this actually is, it's like it's a quest for social collateral. That's actually what it is, you know? It's like a sort of, she's seeking, like clicks, I guess, ultimately. But in the immediate, in the instant, what she's looking for is emboldening or like a round of applause, you know, cheers maybe, you know, like maybe if there's a couple of Christians on this flight, then they'll cheer me, they'll give me a round of, yeah, we love Jesus too, all right, like, you know, it's that sort of thing. And it makes it all the more painful when it's silence. At the end, everyone's like, has she finished? Oh God, thank God. But it's like the irony of it, the paradox of it is like, you're going for social collateral. You're going for like kind of, you know, to be emboldened, to be celebrated, to get that round of applause. But actually it achieves precisely the opposite. Like, everyone hates the person on the thing that's just like it's the same reason, and this is going to sound horrible, but it's the same reason that when people cut like beggars, like homeless people who are really struggling, come onto tube trains and they go like, guys, if I could just have your attention, everyone puts their fucking earphones in. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be a captive audience like that. It just fucks people off. And it fucks them off so much that they're willing to feel bad about themselves, even doing it to a person who's struggling. An obviously poor addict who needs your help. But it's so annoying that you're on the tube train going like, yeah, this is too much. I can't fucking handle this. I'm willing to look like an arsehole just to not be part of whatever the fuck this is. Like, it's like the quest for social collateral achieves precisely the opposite. It's like Jimmy Fallon, right? If you want a good example, just to wrap up, it's like Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon, if you've never seen his Tonight Show interviews, he's such a soulless, terrible, pathetic man. It's like, he'll have fucking, you know, Tina Fey on, or he'll have, you know, Tom Hanks on, or whoever's promoting their fucking vapid movie and TV show that week. And they'll sit there, they'll tell him a story, and it's so funny to him that he's exploding in laughter. He's wetting himself because he thinks it's hilarious, except that, he knows that it isn't. But he has to pretend that everything is so funny to amp it up, to make you think this is an hilarious show. Look at the good time they're having. I like Jimmy because he's having fun. and this is a good time. But it's like he's canned laughter personified. It's like by laughing too much to try to be the catalyst for our laughter and good time, actually, ironically, paradoxically, you make us fucking hate you. We're having the opposite of a good time precisely because, do you see what I'm getting at? I think I'm making sense. That is what this bitch is on the flight. Like, I'm going to spread my joy unto this cabin, and it achieves precisely the opposite. It's like, I'm never fucking watching any of your videos again. This was fucking terrible. Anyway, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been rabbiting on for an hour. Thank you for showing some love on the alternative paper reviews. I'll be back doing those next week. It's been half term. It's been my daughter's birthday and Halloween, so I've had to, and work has been fucking crazy recently. So I haven't been doing paper reviews this week. But I will be back doing them on Monday morning, and then I'll be doing the midweek podcast. If you don't check out the podcast frequently, I do one on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then I do the Friday night live show, which is this one. So yeah, if you haven't tuned in to any of those, do give them a try. Give me a follow on Threads. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so if you did follow me on there, come over to Twitter. Come over to Threads. Sorry, losing my train of thought now. But yeah, that's it for this one. Take care of yourselves. I'm going to stay on now for some Q&A. Keep it booge, keep it binfluencer. And that's it for this motherfucker. How we doing? Are we good? What's up, Christine Cash? Happy birthday, Tiny Thompson. Thank you. Steve Martin says, thanks, Aid. Great fun evening. I'm going to scan up a little bit because I didn't keep much of an eye on the chat while I was ranting away. Gosh, there's a lot of messages tonight. Maybe Conservatives should use a slogan like MEGA. Yeah, could do. Didn't Jenrick say that anybody who refuses to swear allegiance to Israel gets deported? Did he say that? Is that right? I know he's weird about like nationalism, isn't he? I mean, he's the worst type of politician in that respect because he's exploitative. He knows that is a device that he can tap into to appeal to a certain demographic, to a certain subset of people. But I don't think he truly believes any of that stuff. It's super cynical. He also was on the front page of the Daily Mail a few months ago saying that the English identity was under threat. Don't know if you remember that one. That greatest hit of his. I don't really know why they bother trying to tap into that bollocks because it's not a saleable message to most people out there. Most people out there care about their bills and the standard of education and that there's a care home for their parents. Nobody is really worrying about like the English identity that I know of. I never really understand where this comes from. Like, who is that supposed to appeal to? The English identity is under threat and I will protect it. You can leave it, it's safe with me. Oh, thank fucking Christ. Thank Christ for Bobby. What else have we got? Let's have a quick scan through. Baps McGinty says, "Hiya, Aid, my own personal Jesus." Well, I'm not one to bestow titles and accolades onto myself, but I'll take that one. Some people have said I'm sort of a super Christ, super. I was going to say super Christ anti-star. Antichrist superstar was the Marilyn Manson one, wasn't it? But yeah, if you wish to call me Jesus, look, I'm fine with that. Whatever you're comfortable with. Who else have we got? We got Pagan Tyrant in the chat. Clarkson invested $4.6 million in his farm to avoid tax, despite having a £60 million fortune. Oi, so I saw this thing earlier. It's a meme that's going around where people say he bought a farm specifically to avoid inheritance tax. Is that true? Is that actually confirmed? Has he said that that's why he did it? Or is this just a sort of, a theory that kind of sounds like it could be true, and so we all think, well, he's a massive cunt, so, that's probably true. I'll make a funny meme. because I'd be really interested to hear that. If that is a true thing, if he did deliberately try to do that to circumvent inheritance tax, I mean, firstly, it's very funny that now, you know, he's going to get slapped with it anyway. But secondly, like, I'm pretty sure you can get prosecuted for that sort of stuff. So if he's flagrantly admitting it, I'd be worried if I was him. Let's keep going. I just reported Richard's comment of "try it with one of mine" to YouTube, says Mojo Samian. Is this the problem? This is a problem with making empowering people with like moderator what's the word, rights on the live chat. Is I sometimes worry that I'm sure Diz wouldn't do this, but I sometimes worry like the power might go to somebody's head and they just go blocked, you know, mute this one. So hopefully that wouldn't be happening. Who else have we got? Oh, Diz is saying 60 property couple. Oh man, it's so wild, isn't it? How detached and out of touch they are. To even bother. I mean, to be fair, like I was thinking about putting a line about this into the sort of rant stuff earlier. But if you did want to appeal to people who had a lot of money and you had 60 they're small fish in terms of actual wealth, then I suppose the Telegraph is probably the right place for it. You know, like to us it looks ridiculous, but are we Telegraph readers? Not really. Are we Telegraph writers or editors? No. And that is a whole different class of people. So if you wanted to look like you were a bit hard up, you needed a bit of help, looking for a bit of charity from people, maybe the pages of the Telegraph is probably an all right place to do it. Maybe is that the look? That's the route that they're going for. But yeah, 60 properties. £12 million property portfolio, by my estimate. And they're in the fucking newspaper pleading poverty. I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I suppose, like, if you were being really brutal with yourself, like examining your own biases and hate, you could say, okay, well, look, if they started with one and then remortgaged that and bought two, and then the first one becomes worth more, gradually they build this up and it's 7 investment properties. But just gradually, as each one accumulates value, they keep buying another. They never actually accumulate the full 12 million, obviously. And most of the value of those properties is mortgages. But I would suggest that's hugely reckless, like to just not have any collateral in it and to just continue to buy these buy-to-let properties. Because what will happen eventually is a huge hole will open up in the property market. And they will have to fire sale all of those properties because people just won't be able to afford the rent in them. And we already had a hint of that in the pandemic when suddenly loads of people were moving out of London. Like thousands of people were leaving London because they were like, I'm never going to come back here. I can work from Devon. I can work from Brighton. I'll just rent a place down there. It's cheaper. I get to use more of my money. I don't have to commute for 2 hours a day. It's cheap. It's easier. So it was harder to rent a 1-bed or a 2-bed in London. But the landlords all still had these huge mortgages on 1 and 2-bed flats. So they were like, I've got to find somebody to fucking live in this place. So that suddenly the rents were kind of coming down a bit. But what do you do if you're mortgaged up to the eyeballs and you've got these investment properties? You've got to pay that mortgage. But the rent starts to kind of peter out. You're exposed. And then times that by 60. Hugely reckless, if that is the case. So, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to think of a scenario where these two aren't either, culpable for their own folly and financial ridiculousness or actually very wealthy and they've got no business fucking moaning about it. Let's continue. Richard Marsden says, to be fair, it can come down like a house of cards. Is that to do with the... Oh, yes, I see. So 65 investment properties, and you're saying that it could come down like a house of cards. Yeah, I suppose that's exactly what I'm saying about earlier. Just now, sorry. But yes, your other point there, Richard, about, 60 first-time buyers if they sell up is also true. There's a big argument to be made that if you did suddenly liquidate all of these properties and people actually had a shot at ownership, it's great. It would be great for first-time buyers. But here's the fucked up thing with the economy is that if you suddenly flooded the market with, let's say there's 50,000, right? 50,000 buy-to-let properties suddenly go on the market at the same time, and they're all 1-2 bed flats, and that would bring down the price because the demand would be adjusted. It would bring down the price of other people's flats. Thousands would go into negative equity. I'm not really sure what would happen then. Would the banks be exposed to it? The banks would go well, we'll hold on to the asset until it's worth the amount that we loaned to. Do you know what I mean? There's a sort of knock-on effect of this, and if one bank is then exposed to too much of this problem, then potentially you start it starts snowballing. It affects other asset classes. Investors lose money. They pull their money out of the bank. The bank starts to wobble. Then you're looking at bailouts. It gets really shaky. So I kind of understand why when people say idealistic things like we should ban all landlords. I'm always yes, we should. In a perfect world, there would be no such thing as landlords. It would all be social housing and maybe a few landlords here and there, out of circumstance. I just bought a flat, but now I'm going to work in New York for 2 years, so I'll rent my flat out. I get that situation. But when it's shit like this, 60, really? 60 properties. Yeah, I don't know. Let's keep going, shall we? Insight 80 says it's shocking, reckless aid. Yeah, do you know what I would say? And as I said, I'm pretty open about this. My girlfriend works in property, and she has two investment properties. But even she, she's clever, man. She's a smart lady, and she's she said before, she wouldn't get loads and loads of buy-to-let properties because it's so, you're putting all of your eggs into one basket. And if the market does implode, you are fucked. You're just done. Nobody's going to rent your property. You still owe the bank the money. You can't sell it because so many other buy-to-let landlords would suddenly be selling too. So much better to have, 2 properties here. Let's say you rent them out. You treat your tenants well. If they get in a pickle, which has happened, with my missus' tenants, and you pay for them to go to a hotel. You make sure that they're handled correctly. And you don't jack up the rent just because you get hit with a spike of something. So have 2 of them and then invest in other shit like stocks and shares over here. Maybe a startup if you've got that kind of capital behind you. Not that I do, but it makes sense to kind of, what's it they call it? Diversifying your portfolio, right? Don't take anything I'm saying as financial advice, by the way. I should probably say that. Anyway, back to our chat. Diz says, sell the boat. Yeah, look, that is the obvious solution to this, isn't it? In fact, look, we've even got it on the fucking thing here. It still makes me laugh how sad they look. How they do. I said this earlier. They do look like a couple who have their daughter's gone missing or something like that. That's how sad they are. That they might have to sell their boat. We feel hung out to dry. But yeah, they are selling their boat, I think. I think that was their thing. They were they were planning to sail around the world, and now they're having to sell their boat and do all of their own fucking maintenance and all that bollocks. Practicing their compo faces, says Richard Grumpy. Richard Grumpy Git. Jeannie Bottle says, I went to school where it was known locally as NAM, because it was hell to get there, and the smell of BO in the morning hit you in assembly, and not everyone made it out alive. What the fuck? What is that all about? Genie bottle. Let's keep. Sorry, I'm hitting you with some dead air now, aren't I? I'll keep scrolling down the one on the right here. There we go. Oh yes. So who's up for the Clap for Our Cretins campaign? I'm feeling it. Just casting my mind back now. Like, do you remember when the pandemic was in like full throttle, and they did do the Clap for Our Carers? And then do you remember that lad tried to get like Clap for Boris off the ground? And it was like, I remember thinking then, like, that's how deep the hate is for Boris Johnson. That's how much people hate him. Is that even when he's got fucking COVID and he's, you know, allegedly in intensive care, I still think there's a question mark above that. There's something about that smells a bit fishy to me. Even when he's in intensive care, people were like, I'm not clapping for him. I'm not. I hope he pulls through. I don't want his children, many, many children, both the ones that we know about and the anonymous ones. I don't want his kids to grow up fatherless. I don't want that to happen. I'm not that mean and evil. I just want to shit in his moat. No, but I'm not clapping for him. I'm not. I'm sad if he's having trouble breathing. I'm sorry if he's very overweight and that increases his chances of fatality and all that. But I'm still not clapping for him. I hope he gets better. Can't bring myself to do this. I'm sorry. Carl Stone says, speak up, Aid. I can't hear you. Is that right? Have I gone a bit quiet, have I? To be fair, Boris had Clap for a long time, says Yuri. Yeah, you go. Whee! I'll keep going. Keep going a little bit. Yuri says, less avocado and toast. I guess this is about like the landlords again. Yeah, I mean, it's like, so one of the reasons I like wrote the thing for like earlier is because I think these people need to have it thrown back in their face a little bit. Like I got blocked by Bella Wallersteiner a few months ago. She's quite a prominent Twitter account, and it was obviously back when I was on there. But she was complaining about the VAT on private schools thing when that was first being floated. And one of my most retweeted, like, successful tweets, I guess, if you want to call it that, one of my most successful tweets was, like, replying back to her with Rishi Sunak's dismissive lines that he had given to people like me when I was in tears worrying if we were going to keep hold of our house, thanks to Tory mortgage interest rate policies. So she's complaining about private school VAT stuff. I was just like replying to her going like, have you tried holding your nerve? And, you know, and like the state can't solve all your problems, Bella. Like all of this stuff, like just snarky, terrible, mean-spirited shit. But people fucking loved it. They were like, oh, I'm so here for people like throwing Tory lines back at people who were clutching their pearls about VAT on private schools. But yeah, and then she blocked me, unfortunately. But yeah, stuff like that, like less avocado on toast, hold your nerve, just about managings, all of that shit. Hardworking people who just want to get on. Fuck them, honestly. If they weren't there to lend an ear when people like me were worried sick about what was going to happen to our family home through no fault of our own, that's the thing that stings. It's like we did nothing wrong, and then this tidal wave of mortgage interest rates just suddenly goes like, you're going to pay $2,000 a month now. What? How? Why? Because Liz Truss. That's all you need to know. Because Liz Truss. So yeah, fuck them and everybody that looks like them. I'll just do a couple more comments and then and then we'll wrap up, I think. Mojo Sabian says, aid you binfluencer on planes, Booge Airways. I'm just trying to work out what that's a reference to. Me being a binfluencer on a plane? I honestly, I'm a little bit lost now. Billy Kershaw says, if I was the pilot. Yeah, man. That bitch is crazy. Absolutely just nutbar, isn't she? I mean, how nuts do you... I bet she's flying alone. She's got to be flying alone, because if she was flying with like her husband or boyfriend or manager or anyone, they would be like, listen, no, Whitney. No, not here, Whitney. No. Bad Whitney. Bad crazy bitch. You know, it's quite obvious to me that she has traits of narcissism. I'm not going to say she's a full-blown diagnosed narcissist. I don't know. But if you are the sort of person who is on a plane... It's like, there's a Louis C.K. bit, right, where he talks about going on the metro in New York at like 5 a.m. or something. And, you know, there's a tired nurse on the metro train, like the underground here, right? There's this tired nurse, and she's like, oh. And like Louis C.K.'s on the train as well. And then this theatre school girl comes on, and she's like, fa la 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 la, like starts like, you know, performing, and like she thinks it's cute and charming, and like, oh, won't this be a cute, fun story for these people? Like they'll go back to their parents and their friends, and they'll say like, they're like, oh, the most amazing thing happened on the metro. But it's like, it's not that. Like, this nurse has just finished a fucking 17-hour shift. She's knackered. The last thing she wants to see or hear is this aggressive, like, fa la 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 la. It's like that. It's the same thing. But nobody wants to listen to your fucking bullshit at 5,000 feet when they're strapped in and they can't get away from it, and their kids are knackered and grumpy. Like, have some fucking dignity. So yeah. Anyway, listen, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much once again for tuning in tonight, both for the main bit and for sticking around for the Q&A. I'm going to come off now, but if you want to look for something to like tune into a little bit later, I think Graham Hughes is doing Politics Social. So if you haven't subscribed to him yet and given him a like and all that stuff, then go and check out his channel. Politics Social is what it's called. I'll be back next week, as I said earlier, for the midweek solo show, and I will be back doing alternative paper reviews every day next week. Until then, keep it booge, keep it binfluencer, and I am out this motherfucker. See you later, guys. Take care.